So, hello everyone. This is the Unleashed podcast. With me here today is a film director, a writer, a producer extraordinaire, member of UK Directors Guild, British Film Institute, and Chartered Management. Recently, he's also been conferred a PhD degree from Goldsmith. I have the one and only Obi Emelonye with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, dear. That introduction. I was looking around to see who you were introducing.
But that is you.
This village man.
Yeah, no, that is you. You have just obtained your PhD. I don't know how you do that. You started off as a footballer, then a lawyer, and now a very, very big, transcending film producer. How do you do all these things? Because you've accomplished all of this.
I don't know. I would say that I'm maybe good at multitasking, but my life doesn't involve a lot of multitasking. I think I'm one of those. When I was growing up, I was one of those young men who could do different things. But what I learned over time was to concentrate on one at a time. And I concentrate on one, I do it, I move on to the next. So it becomes less of dwelling on who you are, what you've done in the past, than constant growth, constant self-development. So you wear the T-shirt, do shakara with it and give it away and aim for the next T-shirt, get it, wear it. And I think that way you're constantly on the move. You don't stay still. And you remain humble because there is always something else to achieve. There's no bus stop. You don't say, this is my bus stop, I get off here. No, there is always the next goal. And you keep doing that and life becomes interesting and you grow old fulfilled. Like I am growing old fulfilled.
Very good. For me, is looking back, you have been on this journey since you were a teenager because you started a band with your brother.
You know too much. Jeez.
How? So it's been there just to know that you are able to then achieve different things along the line is astounding. And I'm going to have to call you bookworm and a geek because in your secondary school days, you were the best.
Who told you? That's what I tell my children. That's not true.
No, for those listening, it's very true. He was very good at his secondary school level in Imo State. So don't be humble about it. It's okay
most parents will tell their children they were great at school and they made all the best grades. That's not true all the time. But I think in my case, just like I said, I was one of those, as a young person, I was one of those very annoying people that would beat you at football and go to the class and still beat you in class. And I've come to live at that point. I actually saw it as a liability almost, because when you are able to do several things, then you don't give things the time they need to grow. So as a young person, if I go to a football game or go for a football trial and they say you're not good enough, or they say, oh, we need to watch you for another week, I'll say, me? They're running over there, I'll go and run with them. And I'll be good at running. So I never gave everything or anything the time it needed. Everything a seed has to rot before it grows. Mm-hmm. And if you don't allow it to rot, it will never grow. So what I did as a young man was I would go, because I felt I was an arrogance mixed with a little bit of humility that I had, that I felt I was good at whatever it was that I was doing. So I'll go with a sense of entitlement and say, I'll be the first pick. And if I'm not the first pick, me? I'll go over there. So I'll go over there, and that kept on happening. And it became a distraction until at some point when I realized my dad kept telling me that the most gifted are the most useless. That was his constant refrain.
Very good advice.
The most gifted people are usually, they have a very high chance of becoming of wasting the talent. So when I started heeding my dad's advice, I said, okay, I'm going to allow the rot to happen. I'm going to allow myself to be insulted and taken advantage of, but I'm going to show them in the long run that my name is Obi Emelonye. And I started doing that. And that's when...
And you have done it fantastically, because to move from the early days in London here, from Lucky Joe, then to come to Mirror Boy.
Lucky Joe.
I don't know how you have managed to do that, especially for a black person in the UK. How did you manage that, really?
It's a function of, I would say, luck, because, in everything in life, you need a little bit of providence. Some people call it grace. Some people call it luck. Some people think they can get it from prayer. Some people think they can get it from hard work and taking advantage of situations. In my case, I told myself that I was going to be a filmmaker, make a success out of it. And how do you define success? I don't define it by my bank balance. I define it by the level of fulfillment I get from doing what I do. So I told myself I was going to make a success out of filmmaking. So in 2000, I left the UK, bought my equipment, went to Nigeria to join the Nollywood industry. And I hear me. The marketers who were, the distribution format was DVD and VHS at the time. And the people that I signed up with made some films. They ripped me off, every single one of them. I made like 5 films in that stint. And I got very frustrated. So my time in Lagos at that time was spent locking people's shops in Idumota.
Wow.
When they owe me and they would use my money to go shoot another film, I'll go to their shop in Idumota with a big padlock and lock it. And the whole marketers union will gather and beg me to unlock the shop. And I did that several times. And I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I packed up my things and came back to the UK. And I told them that I was going to come back. And before I came back, I needed to hone my skills and become a better person and a better filmmaker. So the Lucky Joe and London Successor were part of the process of becoming a better filmmaker, a more international filmmaker. And then my comeback film in Nigeria became The Mirror Boy. 10 years to the day after I left in frustration, I came back with The Mirror Boy, and my story has been different since then.
It has been, because they were shown in the cinemas here, and that followed up with Last Flight to Abuja. Well, you are not tied to any genre, because you've done...
I'm a storyteller.
Yeah, you've done comedy, thriller.
Lucky Joe.
Yes. So how do you manage that? Because you also do series.
I think people putting themselves in straitjackets of genre is limiting. Any person who wants to watch a content these days, people have the attention span of a 2-year-old. They want very short stuff. Get the punchline quickly, laugh, and scroll to the next. But, people that want to consume content of a certain length, they just want to be told a story. They want to be taken on a journey. They want to be mesmerized. They want to be titillated. They want to be happy. They want to experience somebody's journey.
Yeah.
And no matter what the genre is, if you can do that well and you have the tools to manage people's emotions and manage the story that you're telling, you can make a success of any story, no matter, even if it's biopic. I've done biopics with Badamasi.
You have. I was going to come to that.
And it's just about telling a story. I remember my grandma, bless her soul, had a knack for telling stories that fascinated me as a young person. And there would be very simple stories, but she had a means of manipulating the storytelling in a way that got us engaged. Suspense, music,
you want to hear
dance. More. And that's essentially what I'm doing with the aid of modern technology, telling a story the same way my grandmother would have told it. And it didn't matter if it was a ghost story or the story of the hare and the tortoise. It didn't matter. It was just the handling, the manipulation of the story technique to be able to keep us engaged as young people. And that's what I'm doing right now.
And you're doing well. Come back to Babangida. How did you even manage to convince that elusive man to give you consent?
Oh my goodness.
And the second part is, do you think you should have waited for his book to come out? Or did he...
The benefits of hindsight is always
Yes.
2020. So to answer that second question first, it was a humongous opportunity to tell the story of such a very influential, politically important Nigerian. And I do not have one kobo of regret whether it happened before his book or after his book. In fact, it was the impetus for his book, because at the time I made the film, I would say that was nearly 31 years after he left office. He was very afraid to embrace his legacy. He was very afraid of the Nigerian public. He didn't know how they...
And he should be.
He had every right to be very
Yeah,
afraid.
yes.
However, he needed some kind of litmus test of how the people would take him. And I think
You did that.
I provided that litmus test. By, at the time he was president, the Nigerian media was controlled by a group of people. And at that time, the media savviness of our people was such that whatever they read in the papers, they believed it was gospel truth. And because the papers were controlled by a few people, those people could make or break somebody's reputation. And because he didn't have an opportunity to provide a kind of rejoinder, to use a legal term, what they believed or what they put out there for people to read stood. So it was an opportunity for him to tease his own perspective. This is who I am. Did I make mistakes? Yes, I made mistakes. But was it all in the hope of doing good for myself, primarily, which everybody would do, and then for Nigeria on a broader scale? That was unquestionable. And once people understood that this guy left office because people were protesting, he didn't shoot them. He was a soldier. He didn't shoot them. And at that point, he was very tired of politics, military politics, and its dangers, and fly by night antics, and he was really, really tired, and he wanted to leave. So once people started seeing that, they now juxtapose that with the present day politicians and what they're able to do and what they're willing to do to win an election or to stay in power. And this guy had all the power and he never used them in that kind of very draconian way. They started falling in love with him. And that gave him the impetus now for his family to organize colloquiums for his birthday.
Yeah.
The first time was in 2023, 2 years after the release of the film. And they've continued to do that. And he now had the guts,
To come
the
out.
temerity to go and write a book and say, this is my story. And incidentally, most of the narration in the book confirmed
What you've
what
put in the
I
movie.
made in the film.
Wonderful.
So how did I get about doing a film on IBB?
Yes.
So after the relative success of The Mirror Boy, Last Flight, Abuja, Onyosi, and the films that followed, like Oxford Gardens, the Nollywood film industry, which I attach myself to, even though I live in the UK, was beginning to evolve. A lot of new entrants came in who had money of the type that nobody, could manage before that. I wouldn't mention names, but people came in with on a scale that was overbearing, and it became the industry became
Very saturated,
yeah, yeah.
manageable, kind of, yes.
I think it became an item that was for the highest bidder.
Yes.
Yes, became really commercially top heavy. So I felt I didn't have the money to compete with these people. Talent can only take you so far. And in our industry, because of its systemic vulnerabilities, anybody can come in and buy the industry. Not buy a film, not buy an aspect of, buy the entire
whole
industry. And that's what they were trying to do. So I said, okay, I need to find a niche where I can tell a story that would, by its title alone, be the biggest advert for it, and hopefully get the people involved to fund it, so I don't have to go look for money to make the film. And I thought, how do I start? Who biopics are not great, something that we are known for in Nollywood. So there are no antecedents. But who do I start this journey with that has the character, the tragic flaws, the notoriety, popularity, and relevance, and the money to give me the money to make the film, because that's an important.
Did he give you the money?
In the end, he did not. But that's a long story. Let me come to that. So I felt I was born into the Nigerian Civil War. Yeah. So I've always had a strong affinity with the Biafran War and what happened to the Igbos. But at that time, I think it's still the case, that there's a little bit of controversy surrounding that whole subject matter, and I didn't want to be tainted by it. So I felt the time wasn't right to make a film about Biafran War and the Juku. So let's leave that aside for now and let that political, violent, disturbing era come to an end.
Because it's still quite raw.
Yeah. So who now? Obasanjo, Gowon, who's still alive, Murtala Mohammed. Who do I tell the story of? Then IBB came to mind. IBB special to me personally, because in 1990, when I was in final year at University of Nigeria and Nsukka, I was nominated by my state for a Nigerian National Award. It's called Nigerian National Youth Award, which IBB gave to me and a bunch of other young people personally in State House Marina. At that time, Lagos was still the capital. So I have photographs from that presentation where he clipped my medal on my chest. So I said, I liked him in terms of how he carried himself, how he treated his wife, the fact that he was Muslim and he had one wife and his children, how he's been very protective.
Very nuclear.
Yeah. So I liked it. I said also he's the perfect tragic character, somebody that had power, misused power, that had a tragic flaw, which was ponderance.
Yes, because it cannot be forgiven for destroying Nigeria. But go ahead with your story.
Yeah. So everybody has a flaw. So he had a tragic flaw that made him a very interesting character that would be the subject of a biopic. But unfortunately, I didn't have access. So I said, where am I going to start? I know he lives in Minna, but how do I break down the whole security network to be face-to-face with him and say, I want to make a film about you? And I didn't want to make it like some cowboy shoestring thing where I call him Babajida and try and make it look like it's not him that I'm talking about. I think if we didn't have the permission to do it, then there's no need to do it at all. Incidentally, a lady who had access to him took me to Minna to go and see him. And we got there, and I was disappointed that the 40-room mansion that has been touted about didn't exist. It was a simple home.
It wasn't 40 rooms.
My home in the village is by far better than Babangida's house in Minna.
Really?
So that was the first surprise. That's the power of the story. Somebody else has been telling the story, not him. So it was a simple house. It was designed in the model of Aso Rock. I think that's where the thing came from. But it was a small house. Probably maximum maybe 5 rooms or 6 rooms. And I said, this man. Anyway, they took me in, and as they were ushering me through the door to see him, they said, you have 2 minutes. I said, okay. 2 minutes. I got in, and I said, you look like an Igbo man. I said, yes, I'm an Igbo man. He said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Imo State. What's your name? I told him my name. And I said, I am a filmmaker. He said, okay. You've made a film before? I said, yes. He said, what is your film called? I said, The Mirror Boy, Last Flight to Abuja. He said, you made The Mirror Boy.
And he knew about it?
I said, yes. He said, I watched it 3 times.
Wow.
I said, nah, No, Oga, I'm not being disrespectful, but it's a lie.
You told him.
Me, I sabi joke. I said, yeah, I'm not being disrespectful, but Oga, a lie. You have not watched it. He said, I've watched it. Okay, who is in it? Isn't it Osita, small Osita, and Genevieve? I laid down on the floor. This is not joke. I just fell on the floor and said, that makes my case. I'm coming to you to tell the story of your life.
You respect your work.
To tell the story of your life. And me, this village man, you've watched my film 3 times. You can imagine the amount of people that we can reach. They'll write books about you, launch the books. People will put them on their bookshelves. They would never read them. But because of the entertainment value of film, people would always... It would always be the sugar-coated pill, whereby you are taking the medicine, but you don't know that you're taking it because you're just enjoying it. It's entertainment, but at the same time, you're informing people. And he said a lot of people have come to him to make a film about his life, and he's just not ready. I said, but I've met you before. He said, where? I said, in State House Marina. He said, what was the occasion? I said, Nigerian National Youth Award. And he said, Nigerian National Youth Award. I came prepared with my pictures.
Go with a picture.
And his face just went...
lit up.
And he started calling people's names in the photograph, because he's very personable. He remembers everything. Called her, that her husband died last year. Oh, look at him. Okay. He came to visit me last week.
You became a friend.
My 2 minutes morphed into 2 hours.
Wow.
They had to beg me to tell him to stop so that he can go and eat.
That was a bullet you came with.
It. And he said, look, come back in 2 months' time. Let me think about it. Usually when he does that, people don't come back. Me? Stubborn me.
You kept going.
I came back. He would say, I haven't consulted yet. I need to come back in 6 weeks' time. Remember, I'm coming from London.
Yeah.
I'll go back and I'll come back again. Wow. It took me 3 years of frequenting Mina for him to say, this boy.
Were you reimbursed?
So when our relationship developed to a level that it become a friendship. It was just trying to, because he doesn't make decisions very easily, which is part of his problem as his character flaw. He's very ponderous of decisions. That's over-analyzing. So while he was over-analyzing and he knew that I had kept my word at every time, he started giving me transport money.
But that doesn't mean he shouldn't have funded the movie.
So, but the idea was that he was going to fund the movie, and he sent me to some people, some of his boys, in quotes, to get. They let him down. I don't know what happened, but I would go. They would see me the first time, be excited about it, and then give me the next appointment and never keep it. And he would say, "Okay, come back to Mina. I'll go back to Mina." And in the end, I told him, "Look, I have your permission to make the film, and that." To me, is worth more than anything.
Big enough. So,
with your permission, I would go look for money to make this film. I'm going to make it successful, so I'll get the money back, and I will do what I promised that I would do, which is to put your own side of the story out there. Because I told him, look, it's not about the truth, because the truth is somewhere between what several people say, somewhere in the middle. But this is your perspective. This is the history that you lived through from your own eyes, and you have to own that story, and you can't pretend that it's the truth, because it probably is very far from the truth.
Yeah.
But this is your perspective, and I said, as long as we have that understanding, then I'll tell the story as your voice. I am not speaking on your behalf, but I give you the platform to inhabit my characters and tell the story as you see it, as you remember it.
All right. And he did.
So he gave me 3 nights of no holds barred interview with him and his son. Whatever he remembers or he forgets, his son will remind him, Mohammed. And that was how we got the materials to make the film. So we wrote the script, and when we struggled to find this, to get his people, he said he didn't have money. He said he was a retired general.
Do you believe that?
So, wow. And he was sending me to people to give them. So when that didn't happen, I said, look, I don't want this to run forever. Let me go find the money. and I'll make the film. It is going to be a successful film because everybody is waiting for your story. And because of where I am in the industry and the kind of influence I can bring to bear, we can make this work commercially. So he said, okay, go find the money. I went, found the money, made the film. My first shock was when we were planning to do a premiere, and the distributor, Film One at the time, went to censor the film so that we can show it in the cinemas.
Yeah.
The censors board, for no reason whatsoever, stopped.
Oh, did you recoup your money?
Did not give us a certificate. That was the first shock. I went back to him and said, these people are not giving us a certificate. But Netflix was beginning to consolidate in the space at the time, and I had some films on Netflix. So when they saw the trailer, they contacted my distributor and said, we want to have a look at this film. We sent the film, they had a look and said, this film, this was the words of the
powers that
Netflix senior management, that this film will introduce them to a whole new demographics in Nigeria.
And
it's not the students who would struggle to pay their subscription every month. This is people that would subscribe and forget that they subscribed. Once they watch the film, they think and run till their kingdom come. And politicians, influencers, business people who really, really want to know what happened with the IBB, they would. And they were negotiating for us to make it an original. And then one morning they came back and said, we need to get a letter from Buhari's government.
Oh, what a blow.
We were stumped. It looked like I'd made a very bad gamble, commercial gamble, because if it was his money, then I wouldn't worry. But because I had gone to raise money commercially, I was owing people money.
Of course.
So Amazon now came on board, and they were hungry for good content, and they were willing to take the risk. I said, where? With Buhari's government, because there was no way to tell IBB story without mentioning Buhari.
Yeah.
So Amazon Prime took the film, and that was
how you were able.
That was how we were able to recoup some of the money.
But
so you can now imagine when the book was released, and on the day of the launch, they made 17 billion.
Yes.
You can imagine what investors I owed money on the film that was like the precursor to this book. They told me, look, go and tell your man, we need our money. We
gave him the platform. Give him the oomph.
The temerity, the epileptic confidence, as my lecturer would say, to go ahead and do it. And we've been shortchanged. Not by him, but by the system, because the system was fighting against him. He should at least pay us our money. That was the basis upon which I went back to Nigeria to say, and I saw him, I said, look, this is what my people are saying, and they're right. And he agreed with me that they were right. And he said he was going to make it good. He hasn't yet, but
keep chasing him. He should make it.
Hope abides.
But I thought it should still remain on Prime now, because I checked Prime. I didn't see it anymore.
So the license is for 3 years, from 2022 to 2025. As soon as his book launched, 3 weeks after the book launched, the license expired.
Oh.
So people were now going to watch it, and they discovered that it wasn't there anymore. And because, Film One and the people that...
Was it not renewable, the license?
The company that originally gave it to Amazon Prime are squabbling. So it's very difficult for them to go back, and I didn't have a direct...
This was the time to make the money. People would have watched.
A lot of people. I was inundated. They would say, I heard it was on Amazon Prime. I've gone there. Yes. It's not there. It's left. Literally, exactly 3 weeks after the release of the book, the license finished. It's a 3-year license. So, what I'm trying to do is to get Netflix to take it as one of their back catalog films because it still needs eyeballs.
It's only, I think you should get it back on Netflix if they can, if they are willing to. So does that mean that experience, will you want to do a repeat, let's say, Obasanjo or somebody? Because I think it's left you with a very, very bad taste.
It has, but you never say never. In those challenging situations lie the opportunity. And I've learned lessons not to begin to understand the level of precarious business dealings when it concerns personalities. So if I'm going to do this again, like I actually had a conversation yesterday about doing a biopic.
You've acquired transferable experience
Absolutely.
and skills.
If I was going to do it again, then it has to be fully funded.
Yes.
That way, I'm not taking any risk. I'm not taking a risk with people's money. The person whose story I'm telling is taking the risk. If it works commercially, great. If it doesn't, I don't owe anybody money.
Okay. I want to touch on Onyozi. That's the messenger for those who are not Igbo. I thought it was a good movie and it won awards. Great cast. Would you want to do something again in Igbo language? Because the reason why I ask that is Living in Bondage. It's one of the movies that we all remember that really, really kick-started Nollywood.
Yeah.
Would you want to do something like that? Because I look at the Yoruba movie industry, they are still doing so many movies in Yoruba language. I think we should continue.
And I have.
Okay.
So Onyozi was an experiment in 2013.
Yeah.
And
you still had okay, but I said
yes.
bad mercy too.
Yes. You have to have friends.
Yeah.
I felt I could do no wrong with Mirror Boy, Last Flight Abuja, and all of those. So I felt, this was a good time to introduce a concept that hadn't been commercially viable because even though Living in Bondage, the film that brought forth this concept of Nollywood, was in Igbo, the Igbo people who are filmmakers in an attempt to broaden the scope of their film, started making films in English. So films in Igbo language became a rarity. And the ones that attempted to do it, maybe they didn't do it very well, or maybe the ambition wasn't right, did not work commercially. So people turned their backs completely and started telling stories in English, while the Yorubas continue to tell stories in Yoruba language.
Yes.
So at that time, I felt I had earned the right to embark on that experiment. And when it worked, it was the first Igbo film to show in the cinemas. It was the first Igbo film
to won award,
to win an AMA award. It was the first Igbo film to win an AMVCA. It was the first Igbo film that showed on Africa Magic Igbo channel. Really, really successful.
Broke a lot of ground.
Yes. So all along I've been saying I'm going to do the next film, they're going to do the next, but then the industry started changing and I spent nearly 5 years of my life doing Badamasi. 3 years to get the rights to do it. Then as soon as the film was finished, COVID came. And as soon as COVID finished, we released the film. We wanted to release the film in the cinemas and we had the challenges that we had. So nearly 5 years of my life as a filmmaker were consumed by Badamasi. And incidentally, 2 years ago, I worked with a lady that I've worked in the past, who had a story titled Out of Breath. It told the story of the early 20th century when elders in Igbo land were still buried with their slaves. And a man, one of the elders.
So that's real. I heard that as a child.
One of the elders decided to revolt against that system, putting himself and his own servant at risk of the same thing he's trying to stop. So it's called Out of Breath. So we made that film in 2023. It was the closing film of AFRIF, in Africa International Film Festival last year, which is a huge honor for a language film. because it's usually very big Hollywood films that close Afrif.
Afraid.
Yeah, so at the moment with the Netflix and Amazon Prime prevaricating on whether to stay or to go, the conversation is still going if they will license it, when they will license
When
it.
they will
But that film has been made. It's made to a certain quality.
Okay.
It won an AMA award last year too. And it has KOK, Kanayo O Kanayo, Chidi Mokeme, Ebele Okaro,
great actors.
Obi Okoli, Jide Kene Achufusi, and what's her name? What's her name? Anyway,
Can you say the name of the movie again so that the
Out of
audience will
Breath.
out of breath, so
Out of
that it
Breath.
will go and support it when it comes out?
when it comes out,
Please.
it's a for the film to be the closing film of Afrif was a huge, humongous honor last year, November last year.
Wow.
So we're still waiting for Netflix and the distributor to conclude, but it's coming, and everything is done in Igbo, not one single English
I am
language.
looking forward to that, definitely.
And I wrote that myself. I wrote the Igbo myself.
Wow.
So it's an exercise in Igbo poetry.
Okay.
The language, the idioms, really deep. And the subject matter allows you to play with that kind of.
Okay.
But it's not a dark film, even though the subject matter is dark,
dark.
but it's treated in a way that is watchable, and it's really interesting.
Thank you
Nice
for doing
film.
that. We
Out of
need
Breath.
to have that to be, especially for a lot of the children in diaspora. I mean, because they're consuming a lot of content on the internet. I see what YouTube is done now for Nollywood. A lot of people are producing movie. Is that something that interests you? I don't think you would do though, but I must ask.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good, I see it as a way of people to earn income, because that's another thing. I must applaud you guys for creating job opportunity where our government is not doing any of that. The most people that give job now is Nollywood. So that is great. So I see it at them, if that's the way for them to make money. But do you think is bringing the value of Nollywood down, or is it helping it? What is happening now with it on YouTube?
I think first of all we need to look at the journey of Nollywood and how the YouTube rose up the food chain to become the lion, nearly of the food chain. When Nollywood emerged, it was a DVD, VHS, VCD format industry that gave a lot of powers to the marketers that ruined my Nigerian experience.
The one you were locking up, closing their stores.
Yes. And then cinema now came with the Silverbirds opening a cinema and other cinema chains following, and filmmakers like myself making The Mirror Boy, Last Flight to Abuja, Figurine, Phone Swap, and all of those things, and Anchor Baby, and those films that helped to grow the Nigerian cinema culture. So while a select number of filmmakers evolved to what was now called New Nollywood, the cinema-facing part of the industry, some of the old practitioners who could not elevate their craft or find the budgets for those bigger films continue to make films sold predominantly on VCD. But as the VCD phased out completely, there was nowhere else to go. And in 2011, YouTube launched in Nigeria. Launched in Nigeria as a wild, wild west of content without any consideration for IP or respect for IP. People just uploaded anything they wanted. Whoever owned it, they didn't care. But over time, YouTube kind of,
Are they reining in on that now?
Cleaned up its act.
Okay.
And Jason Njoku started a platform on YouTube called Nollywood Love, because his mom would go to Nigeria and buy DVDs. On one trip, she went and she forgot to buy the DVDs. So she came back very, very unhappy. And he went online to see if he could find something for her to watch, and there was none. So he felt, with the level of popularity these people have, or the level of demand.
So he was the first,
Yes.
not really Ruth Kadiri. Sorry.
Ruth Kadiri is a long. Ruth Kadiri is more of a recent thing. Right. So this is the journey, and it's unfortunately it's part of what I wrote in my PhD. So Jason, he felt that the mom and her needed access to, without the encumbrance of carrying DVDs that once you've watched them, they become a liability. So he got his friend, a German guy who was his classmate. He was unemployed at the time in Deptford. Got his friend who was a German guy with family connections with money, and his uncle raised some money for them to go to Nigeria to buy online rights that never existed before. So they came to all the filmmakers then and said, look, we want to buy your film. You can keep anything. We'll just take one copy and do it online. And for that, we'll give you $100 for each film. And remember, some of those filmmakers had maybe hundreds of titles. Yes. And all of a sudden, all of those titles...
Because they were churning out all the time.
All of a sudden,
like
something you had packed away and felt that its shelf life was gone was resurrected. And they embraced it. So with the little money they went to Nigeria with, they bought a lot of online rights. Came back, uploaded it on YouTube, and through YouTube in Germany, monetized it. And they made so much money in such a short time that some investment bankers said, look, you cannot be on YouTube. You have to find your own platform. And that's how Iroko TV was born.
Wow.
So Iroko TV came out of YouTube. So Nollywood Love came out of YouTube and became Iroko TV. And
smart move. At the right time.
When I say money, I mean, in the end, they had about $12 million investment, even though they closed in 2023, which is a symptom of the times. So Jason was now driving, they called it the Netflix of Africa. That it became a competition for YouTube. But by this time, the splintering that happened in the industry, where the new Nollywood people were now, completely separated from the old Nollywood, and DVD wasn't in existence anymore. And then there was a little bit of monetization that's beginning to happen with YouTube. And some of the filmmakers felt, if we cannot make films that will show in the cinemas, let's make small ones and put it on YouTube and hopefully grow an audience and make small money from it. Because otherwise there was no other way to make money. Because the DVDs were not selling anymore.
Yes.
That's what happened. So the people that started early, like Ibaka TV and such like, they weren't making films. They would go take your film, put it on their platform, share the money with you. And that's what they were doing. And then, at that time, television, Africa Magic was commissioning projects. They were buoyant, that sector. Pay TV was really buoyant. So they were commissioning. And people, in the absence of DVDs and cinema, were making films for Africa Magic. You make one small Igbo film or epic film, you sell to Africa Magic. And then the residual, once the exclusive period passes, you can put it on YouTube and you make additional money. And then when the YouTube started becoming more organized in terms of the money that came and the advertising revenue increased, they felt that, okay, we can actually make a content not for Africa Magic first, but straight for YouTube. That's where the likes of Ruth Kadiri now came in.
Right.
So Ruth Kadiri came in as a producer for Africa Magic.
I see.
And then when her YouTube channel, where she puts residual content, was beginning to become serious, she considered making projects specifically for the YouTube. Omoni Oboli had problems with Blessing Egbe was the first to go YouTube line and use quality content. I don't even see any of her movies anymore
because she's very good.
Yes. Lakey Wives.
Yeah.
Quality content. She started putting quality content to grow an audience on YouTube and was making money. Omoni Oboli decided to follow the same route, Ruth Kadiri and the like. And before you know it, they've become a very, very important. In fact, they make more money than the cinema people right now. For the ones that have grown to that level where they can look at Amoni Boli's film, Love in Every Word.
In every word, yes.
She probably made more money than all the film producers in the cinema put together from that one film on YouTube. But that's a freak show. That's an exception. It's not the norm.
It's not a norm.
Usually they would make a little bit of money, enough to make the next film, and the subsistence continues. But there are so many of them now, and everybody, including Kunle Afolayan, the big players, are now thinking, maybe we need a YouTube channel. Maybe we should put out big content. But you now discover that the big content on YouTube, don't really translate to success. Some people will go there and watch it, but they don't have the following.
I already knew that it's not something you might not be willing to.
No, so in the lockdown, when I started my PhD as part of my keeping myself busy, I started a YouTube channel. It's still there. I haven't monetized it, even though I've reached all the metrics for monetization. But I think our people say that if you carry an elephant on your back and you're still using your toes to catch a locust, then there's something greedy about you. So I think every filmmaker aspires to be where I am.
Of course.
By God's grace. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be ungrateful of me to go now back and start competing with them. On those grounds.
I get that.
So I stay in my zone. It's not about making money. It's about the profile that I want to maintain.
You are about breaking grounds. Look what you did during the COVID, the movie you produced via Zoom. Only you did
I just had fun
with that. And look at how successful the accolades. And then you follow with blackmail. And
blackmail was a in lockdown, I just sat there. And look, the story of blackmail is about sextortion. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have fallen victim of, making friends online.
I especially liked it because I speak Russian, so I said.
Oh, you speak Russian?
Well, yeah, of course, конечно. But it's rusty now a bit. My Russian is not too great. But yeah, so I said, they're speaking Russian.
I studied Russian at university.
Really?
In Suka. In 1986 to 1987. Yeah. Modern languages.
Как жизни? Как тебе?
Очень хорошо.
Oh, wow. Somebody who didn't study it in Russia is very good.
I remember a little bit. Not
that's
too much.
Not a little bit. That's saying that because you're not speaking it as if you're almost like a native. So
I was good. It was one of those subjects that I was very good at. In fact, what
can Obi Emelonye not do?
when the Russians were coming to visit the university, and I was one of the people put forward for scholarship to Russia, but perestroika destroyed
happened.
It didn't happen again.
Happened.
But let's not digress.
Let's not digress.
Let's stay with blackmail. Blackmail came in just as the lockdown was beginning to happen. I got an email. I think I had actually had my laptop on my lap, and an email dropped. So I clicked on it, and he said,
so that was born out of your own experience?
My personal experience, yes. Said, we know your password is, that was the first line, your password is so and so.
And it was correct?
It was correct. But incidentally, I changed the password. Excuse me. I changed the password like 2 months before. And they said, your password is so and so. We've been watching you. We've broken into your system. We've been watching you for the past 30 days or something stupid like that. And we have records of everything that you've been doing, blah, 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 blah. And, they said you've been watching whatever. And we unless you paid us $2,000, we're going to release it to the world. And I called my wife and I said, look at what I got. And she said, scammers. Well, I didn't really dismiss it as scammers because they got my email password correct, even though it was an old password. So I said, what else do these people know? So I went back to my bank apps and started changing everything. I couldn't sleep that night. I was so disturbed. Mm-hmm. But my problem wasn't that they said I was doing some, X-rated stuff and they had recordings of it, because that was a lie. But it's just the feeling of being
somebody
violated.
Invading your privacy to that extent.
Being violated.
Yes.
I kind of, really, really felt uneasy about it. And I said, but I haven't done anything wrong, and I'm feeling this way. What if I did something wrong? What if I had cockroaches in my cupboard? How would I feel? Yeah. That night, I started writing. So I went online. I said, let me see if there's been a film about this matter. And the closest I came to it was an episode of Black Mirror called Shut Up and Dance. But, as Black Mirror do, they took it from a post-apocalyptic perspective, really dark. I said, no. I'm going to tell this story as an everyday story, today's contemporary everyday story.
Which is a fact.
Yes. And then I discovered in my research that night that there had been 17 suicides in the UK in the last 3 years linked to sextortion. The data was like scary. And I said, why isn't somebody talking about this? Blackmail was born.
Wow. And you did well.
So I put a team together. It was in the middle of lockdown, October 2020. So I said, look, we have to shoot this. So we did bubble. We bubbled together. Everybody forgets that word now. Yeah. We bubbled up and got OCU KJ to come from Canada. And we made the film. And it was released in the cinema in 2026 in the UK here. It was supposed to be released in Nigeria, but that didn't happen. Then it went on Amazon Prime. But it's one of those stories that I usually tell very Afrocentric stories, but this was more global facing.
Yes.
Even though the main characters were Black people,
but
it was more like a film that anybody
resonate with
who has an internet, who has a an email address, would relate to, because the level of vulnerability we have as a people now, the biggest impact of destruction is not by a nuclear weapon. It would be by something done online.
Online, true.
There's a power failure in Portugal and Spain a few days ago.
I couldn't believe that.
And everything ground to a halt.
Yeah, I didn't even. My colleagues said, because I was so busy doing my other work, have you not been reading what is happening? I said, what is happening in Spain? I said, oh, okay. That was a reminder of what can happen.
We are a very vulnerable society right now. We are very reliant on, if my credit card doesn't work, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the internet goes down, the traffic lights, air traffic control, everything grinds to a halt.
So you done well with that for bringing it into the limelight. Thank you. Well done for that. So there's another thing I noticed in Nigeria, Nollywood. I know you do a lot of diaspora. However, there is this stigma of people who shoots movie in Asaba, or maybe the Yoruba wood. I don't know if I can call it that. And I see that some of them don't want to use some actors. They think, no, you are not for that. There's a class issue in Nollywood, I notice.
Nigeria is a very nepotic society. Nepotism is our second name. So it's a Porapo-based, just like everything else. The selection of the Nigerian national team is a political issue. It's not about competence. It's not about quality. It's a political issue. They say, where is the person from the north? Where is the person from the south? Why do you have a goalkeeper who's from the west? That is the constant.
I thought we've gone past that in the movie industry, because I thought everyone get into the movie. But as I begin to look at it, I say, no, there is that really divide.
People have their favorites, and that favoritism is based on maybe an old relationship or based on somebody that gives you their all. I worked with Enyi Namwigwe on a variety of projects over a space of time, and he was in nearly every project that I made. It wasn't because there was any. So I'll take that again, because of the change of light. So I worked with Enyi Namwigwe on a series of projects leading up to Badamasi, and he was in nearly every film that I made. And it wasn't a case of, he was doing it for free. I was paying him, but I was comfortable with him because he would give me his all. He would suspend anything he's doing once I come calling, and I respect that. Anthony Monjaro, that worked with me on from the UK here, he's in my last film, Safari, which is about to be released.
I was just going to ask you about that.
He was in Last Flight Abuja. So you have favorites, but I don't have any ethnic or any special consideration.
Would you use any
in
actor
casting.
from
I don't
Asaba?
care where you come
From?
You know, most of the people in the industry, I give them a break. I give a lot of people a
You
break
do.
because you know, once I've cast the main role, that is the commercial casting of the film, any other person can play any role. Any other person. And even if you don't know how to act, I'll make you a good actor for that particular role. Like I wouldn't make you a good actor overall, but you play that role well enough so that it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb in the film. And I'm able to do that. So I don't really, you know, when it comes to casting, at the beginning of my career, I was doing auditions. Then I tried one, and 500 people showed up in Ibadan. I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Oh, that's a lot.
So I would cast the main parts in the film, and then whoever is available plays the rest of the roles.
Okay, so you don't do auditions. You send your script to who you think
So
you have in
the
mind.
major cast that you need to make the film work, you know, the Omotolas of this world, the Genevieves of this world, you cast them above board, and then every other role is available.
Right.
And mostly it's my friends that would come or my crew that would bring people and fill the roles.
We fill the
and
roles.
I don't have any interest. I don't do couch casting. So if you can play the role, welcome.
Well,
and the thing about it is that people that I've worked with don't really appreciate the fact that I don't do that until they've got, because they usually meet me at the early stages of their career and they think it's normal. When they've been to the world, they come back and they see me at events and they would prostrate, they would lie down. This guy, he didn't do.
Oh, you're different. No one is telling them to that we've been hearing money for a role or whatever for a role.
Money for role, whatever for role. It's real.
I know.
It's real. It's real.
Well, it would be real because look at it happens in Hollywood.
It happens in Hollywood.
So
it happens in Hollywood until the person wakes up 35 years later and feels dirty about themselves and decides to start a YouTube movement.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, adults should take responsibility for whatever they do.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And not, you know, visit, you know, what our guy rotting in jail right now is obnoxious. But he was allowed to do it. He wielded power. But
that's the thing, is that power that has to be protected. Any person in a position of power shouldn't abuse it.
99% of people in positions of power would always
abuse it. Which is what everyone is fighting. Anyway, let's leave. That's a different.
But I guess you know, everybody has a price.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has a price. And I think when your price is low, then you can fall for some of those things. The ones that have complained are not the only ones that worked with those
big producers,
predatory people.
Yeah.
They worked with some other people. They didn't have any complaints. It's the level of desperation of the person, just like it is in Nollywood. They throw themselves at you now. You don't have to ask. They'll throw themselves at you. They'll find out where you live. They'll find out where your office is, and they'll show up.
Oh, this for real?
And show you desperately how much they need the role. And you know, if you fall for it,
how do you cope with that? Has that happened to you?
Oh, it's a constant. When you have a project and when you don't have a project.
Wow.
So you can imagine now somebody turns around 15 years from now and they say, you know, I was, you know, harassed. Who's doing the harassment?
Oh.
You know, and I think the legal system, particularly in the UK.
What I know, I want people who are vulnerable to be protected.
Protected, full stop.
At all times, you know, that's my own stand.
Yeah.
And just because you're in a position of power, you should respect it. But I know we live in a broken world and things will go wrong.
You're defending the legal profession now. Okay.
Yes. I'm not defending it. It's just, you know, it's a normal. I mean, I have a niece who's a dancer and she set up a company and very good. Sometimes we worry about that. You know, her being in that arena,
in that
how
space.
protected is she going to be? You know, I'm calling my sister. This one is saying, you know, just to be sure she's not taken advantage of and she's not in that position. But I hope we've done very well that she will never be taken advantage of. She'll be able to say no, and no is no.
Absolutely.
We trust that. She's
Absolutely.
never going to.
Absolutely. If she's not too desperate. I think it's the desperation that is the problem.
No,
if she's not too desperate, she'll be able to have her moral character would hold.
Yes, she will.
It's the desperation that makes people
do
all those rubbish, and they turn around and regret it down the line, and then victimize somebody at the end of it. They should take responsibility. That's my point.
Wow. Anyway, another thing I wanted to touch on is I'm going to talk. Which one? I would love you to do a movie with old and new Nollywood. With a car. Okay, let me.
I've just done that with out of breath. Had old and new Nollywood.
Okay, let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Who will build your dream ensemble cast? Nollywood, Hollywood, anywhere, and why?
There's a film that I've been working on since 2012.
Wow.
It's called Ubuntu Protocol.
Okay.
It's I was telling anybody that cared to listen, it's my next film. I've been putting it back for so long that it needs to come out, because it's really if anybody thought Last Flight Abuja and all of those were ambitious, this is really, really ambitious on that scale.
Any synopsis? You don't want to give anything away?
It's about an ex-American president with African connections who gets invited to an imaginary country called Ubuntu to make a speech, and he obliges, finishes the speech, but decides against security advice to hop across the border to fulfill a promise he made to his grandmother, and he's kidnapped by
that's heavy.
Some insurgents. So while the biggest military is preparing on the banks of the Atlantic, he's now thrust in this environment that is very strange, stripped of his airs, stripped of his personality and his security. He has to survive on his own wits. And it gives us an insight into how that character, you can imagine who it is now, how that character deals with that environment. And it has both imaginary, creative, as well as real life resonances about it. Yes.
Wow. And
so Ubuntu Protocol. So I've always wanted to work with Idris Elba on that film, and
he will be good. Great actor.
It would happen.
Have you approached him? Have you sent him any script before?
We have been talking informally, but you don't knock on those doors except you're ready.
Okay.
Otherwise, they will take you as one of those.
But there's been informal.
There's been a kind of informal conversation about it, but like I said, if the budget is on the table, I will speak to Idris on that same day.
How is I know you've gone past the securing finances for an independent filmmaker. How is that going? How do you?
That's the most difficult part of filmmaking, and it gets. Some people will think that some people will think that it would get easier with time and with experience. It actually gets harder because you are no longer judged by the simple metrics of a young filmmaker. They expect too much. They say he to whom much is given, much is expected. They
give you little but expect much.
Absolutely. And the kind of budgets you would have worked with at the beginning would not make any sense to you right now. So you're talking big money. It becomes slightly more difficult to raise those big funds.
We would do what Obama did. Don't worry, we'll raise the funds.
Okay.
we'll raise those funds. Anyway, before we go, what would you like to be your lasting legacy? What would you like to be remembered for? Haven't done. You're a lecturer now. You lecture, so.
I'm trying to pass on my experience. I'm actually starting a film school in Lagos.
You beat me to that question. I was going to ask, are you going to start any film school?
I start a film school in Lagos before the end of the year.
I think you should do one premiere in the Caribbean. They support us a lot.
They do. So I've made films in Freetown. I've made films in Banjul. I've made films in Nairobi. I actually think a certain level of Pan-African filmmaking is my niche.
Yeah.
International but not just focusing on Nigeria and,
Yeah,
and the
we should
UK
do
alone,
something.
but just
Yeah, in the Bahamas.
in the
Go
Bahamas,
to Barbados, Jamaica.
and I'm just waiting for the right connections to happen.
Please.
If you can make the connection, I'll be happy to pick it.
Okay,
to take it up.
okay, I hear you. We see.
So my legacy,
yes.
it's simply, and I'm almost at that point as an old man.
I don't know what you call old
where-
man.
where
He's
I
not
think of-
60 yet, people.
where I think of legacy. I think I just want to be remembered as a good man, first and foremost, a good father, a good husband. I'll hasten to add, a very good husband, I would say, and there was also somebody who was fearless in terms of what challenges he faced, and who won more fights than he lost.
Okay, thank you. We hope you will remember that. We're looking for your next movie,
Safari.
Safari. I think you're starting. When is it coming out? With Osasi Good.
Yeah, very soon.
Okay.
Very soon.
I'm looking out for that. We'll promote it. We'll come and support you. Thank you for coming to the show today. The Unleashed. Thank you. What a hey, happy boy. It's Obi Emelonye. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.